I work with the 1st through 5th grade. I find it meaningful working in Sherwood Kids every Sunday because I like to think I have a connection with the kids, and interacting with them, teasing them, answering their questions that they have is important to me. I like to think that I make their day a little bit brighter when they are at Sherwood Kids. You should help us on Sunday in Sherwood Kids. We have lots of different roles that need to be filled. You don't have to have an extensive Bible background to help us. The kids will enjoy having somebody there that they can interact with every Sunday. You'll get a lot of satisfaction out of it. Some of the kids here, it's their first introduction to Jesus, and you can help set their biblical foundation.
So I talked to Steve this morning as he was coming in. They attend the 8 o'clock service. And I said, Steve, how long have you been serving in that role? That's that specific role of greeting our children as they come into Sherwood Kids. And he said it's been about 27, 28 years that he has been doing that. And so most likely, many of you have had kids that are now adults and have kids of their own who Steve checked them in. And I was like, Steve, what makes you keep coming back? He's like, well, Shawn, I have a goal each and every week. I try to make a kid cry. And he said, I have not been able to do it yet. And so I just keep coming back. I was like, all right, man, we all got to have goals. So good for you. I appreciate him. I appreciate all of our volunteers at Sherwood Oaks. And like Maggie said, if you're looking for a place to serve, come, Serve Finder. We'd love to have you there. So 60 years ago tomorrow, Dr. Martin Luther King stood on a makeshift podium on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial and delivered his iconic I Have a Dream speech. And it was a speech that went down as one of the most poignant, important, powerful speeches in our nation's history. And the dream that he shared that day, I actually learned this through a podcast earlier this year. You maybe know this. That part of his speech wasn't actually written into what he was going to share that day. Like it was impromptu, and he'd kind of been working on some of those thoughts, but it wasn't until in the moment when he said, no, this is the time to share that. And so that was kind of off the cuff, the part that we remember the most. And that dream that he shared that day, it not only echoed through the National Mall 60 years ago tomorrow, it continues to echo through our world today. And King dedicated his life, first and foremost, to Jesus. His entire ministry philosophy, his call to action for civil rights movement and his approach to it reflected the actions and the attitude of Jesus, especially in the way that it was deeply rooted in serving others. The King gave his life, literally, to serving others. And it came out not just in his actions, but it also came out in books, and it came out in his sermons. One of my favorite sermons of his is called The Drum Major Instinct. He preached it on February 4th, 1968, 2 months to the day before his assassination. And he said some things in there that I think just are still so important for us today. 2 things I want to highlight. Number 1, he said, life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? What are you doing for others? Are you helping them? Are you putting their needs above your own? Are you making sacrifices for other people? Are you making a difference in anyone's life? And I love the second one. He said, everyone can be great because anybody can serve. You don't need a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and verb agree to serve. Hopefully you can hang some participles to be able to serve, because I do that quite a bit. You only need a heart full of grace, a soul generated by love. A heart full of grace and a soul generated, motivated by love. And when those 2 things come together, it is a powerful combination, and they become an unstoppable force for good. Put another way, when you combine grace and love, they become an unstoppable force for God. And when we put our faith into action, motivated by the grace that we have received and a love for God and a love for others, there is no limit to what God will do in us and through us. And I think it's why the Apostle Paul says in Galatians 5:6 that the only thing that matters, the only thing that counts is faith expressing itself through love. And we can just surround our lives with all of these religious things, trying to like show that we are followers of Jesus. And Paul says, just kind of cuts through all of the weeds. And he says, no, listen, the only thing that matters is faith expressing itself through love. It is a heart filled with grace and love that says, Lord, here I am, use me to serve others. And today I want to invite some friends up to the stage with me who I think just are living this out so well. And they would say it's not perfect, but they're living this out and it's making a difference in the lives of others. So would you please help me welcome our panel to the stage this morning? Come on up, guys. Well, welcome. I really appreciate you all coming and being a part of this today. And I think each of them individually, when I asked them to be a part of this, they said, well, it's probably a good thing we've been talking about putting your faith into action for the last however many weeks, because this is stepping out of a little bit of your comfort zone, right? But you are amongst friends, right? They're amongst friends here this morning. So looking forward to what you have to share. Why don't you just start by going through down the line, introduce yourself and how you are involved currently in serving.
Well, my name is Barb Fox, and John and I are serving through our local Meals on Wheels. We've been doing that for about 6 years, and we essentially deliver meals just one day a month. And yeah, that's it.
Okay. Good morning, my name's John Fox, and like Barb said, I help her deliver meals for Meals on Wheels in Bloomington.
Okay. Tom.
I'm Tom Limberger. My wife Janine and I have been worshiping and serving here for 36 years, but I'm here to talk about Kairos Prison Ministry, which I got involved in when I retired in 2018, and I cannot imagine not doing Kairos anymore since I've started.
Morning, I'm Dorcas Miao. I'm majorly involved in BISM International Student Ministry. The 19th Furniture Giveaway, we just showed, that's a huge part of our ministry. We also have weekly coffee hour, actually at this time, weekly Bible studies, a lot of hikings and parties and Thanksgiving parties that we will invite you to sign up. So it's a good ministry I'm serving.
I mean, we got to see the celebration video with FGA, and so that's a big part of what you get to do. Yeah, so tell us how you got involved in the area where you're serving, and how did you feel going into it? Were you excited? Were you a little bit apprehensive and nervous? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it wasn't until we retired that we really were able to put, a lot of time into something that is during the day. I'd heard of Meals on Wheels, and so John and I kind of talked about what we could maybe do together. And so that's just kind of how we chose it, just something meaningful.
Looking for a way to make a difference.
Yeah, like Barb said, we retired in 2017, and we're just looking for a way to volunteer in the community, something we could do together. Yeah. And Barb was aware of the Meals on Wheels and suggested it. And I was a little hesitant at first, but we decided to do it. Yeah. Going in, I was a little nervous just about, what was going to take place, but Meals on Wheels was good enough to provide a volunteer with us that had driven the route, that kind of showed us the route and how to deliver the meals and told us a little bit about the clients, and that helped a lot.
Yeah. Tom, how about for you? I mean, you are involved in a very unique ministry, going into prisons to just serve the guys and point them to Jesus. How did you get plugged into that, and how did you feel as you were getting started?
Like these here, I was retiring in 2018, and I started praying, Lord, I've had friends tell me after they retire, says, don't retire from something, retire to something. So I was praying, what is that for me? Because I did not have anything in mind. But my good friend Frank invited me to join him in prison for Kairos. And by
I'm
first
glad that you added that last part. Because, I mean, that's a different story. Like, let's get in some trouble and go to prison. Yeah. No, that's...
And my first thought was, going to prison. voluntarily?
Yeah.
That was not on my mind. But so I told Frank, okay, Frank, I'll come to one of your team meetings to find out more about the ministry. He picked me up Saturday morning, and guess where he took me? He took me to prison.
Yeah.
He didn't tell me the meeting was going to be inside. But the Lord knew what he was doing. He knew I needed to meet these guys that have been through a weekend before and hear their stories and what that weekend meant for them. I was hooked from that point on, and I cannot imagine not doing Kairos. And those 2.5 years we were locked out because of COVID was very hard.
I bet. Dorcas, you have a very interesting story about how you got connected with BISM.
Yeah, I came here in 2019 as an international student, graduate student. I was on the other side searching for furniture giveaway. You know, it's a huge thing for international students. Like it was Bloomington has one. This is a good city. So I was invited into the furniture giveaway and then to a series of events and small group gatherings. And through the whole process, I see people don't expect or want me to pay back. That helps me to stay faith in life, and I want to be part of that. So I always feel supported in the ministry, to your second part of the question, because I see the whole ministry as a great place to disciple students. They want to engage students not only to be served, but to serve others so as to grow.
Yeah, that's great. So you came, you received furniture, you experienced that love, and you're like, I want to be a part of helping others experience that.
Yeah.
And so Dorcas and I have served in the same room together for the last 3 years, welcoming students, and it just exudes out of her. I hope that your joy will increase just a little bit, because you need just a bit more of it. But it comes out of her, and you can tell the way that she loves those students, and it was inspiring to me to watch how she does. I learned a lot from her on how to just engage and make students feel welcome. And it's because you know what that's like to be on the other side. Yeah. So what are some of the joys in the way that you serve, and what are some of the challenges?
Well, I'm a people person, so I really enjoy the interaction with our clients. It's not just, here's your meal, have a great day. I mean, a lot of the clients that we see, we are the only person that they might interact with their whole day. So I try to, you can't stand there for half an hour, but I try to kind of develop a relationship with these folks. I've got a nephew that's really a great baseball player, and they all know, and they ask me about him. So it's developing a personal relationship with these folks, and if there's a problem, I can kind of figure it out just through that conversation. And then as far as challenges, our route takes us into some communities or some neighborhoods, I guess I should say, that I probably wouldn't feel real safe going by myself and just knocking on doors and that type of thing. That is definitely something that's out of my comfort zone, and the same thing with the people themselves. So, but my perspective has changed as I've been more involved in Meals on Wheels.
I really appreciate you sharing that and just your vulnerability and say there are some places that it's hard for me to go.
Yeah. But
you're going because you're putting your faith into action.
Right.
To go
and
there.
if that's holding someone else back, I want them to realize that you can overcome that, Have a buddy.
Have a buddy. Or a hubby. A buddy or a hubby, yeah.
When we deliver the meals, I'm the one that I tend to do the driving, and I make phone calls to the clients when they don't answer the door, because we need to let them know their meal's there so they won't spoil. Sometimes they put a cooler out, sometimes they don't. And that's always a feel-good moment for me, because they are so thankful and appreciative of what we do, and they let us know that. And I just really enjoy that feel-good moment during that volunteering time. One of the challenges is when we pick our meals up, we just need to make sure that we have the proper number and correct meals for the clients before we leave the pickup point, just to make sure that everybody's covered. Because that changes every time we deliver meals. It seems like that changes. Somebody drops off, or they add a client, or we just need to make sure that that's all correct.
Got all your logistics.
Yeah. And it was a little difficult during COVID times, especially because we couldn't knock on the door, couldn't meet the people face to face. So we were calling them constantly to remind them. So that was a difficult time, but we got through that okay.
Tom, how about for you? Joy and maybe a challenge?
Well, I've already mentioned the challenge, and that was getting in prison to begin with, getting me there.
Getting in there.
But the joy is over the weekend goes from a Thursday afternoon to a Sunday afternoon. And meeting these men and seeing their lives change, seeing them change, you can see it in their eyes and their expressions from the first day through the last day. Yeah. See the way the Lord's working through our team that goes in, and they'll tell you, they'll be frank with you about how this has changed their lives.
Yeah, I've been able to spend a week in a ministry very similar to that, going into a local jail. And you're right, I mean, to see the difference in the guys, you can see it in their eyes. There's just a joy that is in them. Brings a lot of hope. That's great. Dorcas, how about for you?
So for me, I think BISM is my living atmosphere. So it's good to serve and feeling being served and cared for at the same time. I think one challenge comes from it is sometimes I struggle with not being intrusive in living out my faith in front of non-Christian friends, international students who probably have different religious background than me. And it challenges me a lot when, for example, we have Seekers Bible Study. We know they need to sit there until the end to get the right from us to get back. And sometimes I feel like pretty struggling to be respectful in a way to listen more and listen clearly before I say something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are some things that you all have learned about putting your faith into action by serving?
I've just learned to be more intent with my listening, to ask the extra questions, and to just kind of put yourself out there. Listening to that little inner voice. I know every single person in this room has had that little, oh, I should do that, but do I really not, do I really want to? And where's that gonna lead? And so for me, for some reason with one of our clients, it was just like a really powerful thing within me. And so just move forward and try to follow that urging that I feel God puts in all of our hearts.
Yeah, that's good.
I believe faith had a lot to do with us helping one of our clients, Sylvia. I'm one of those people that enjoy projects, working with my hands. I'm kind of a jack of all trades, I guess. And I always wondered what God had in mind for me. I'm 71, and he presented an opportunity, and we acted on it pretty quickly. It just felt like a good fit. We've been well blessed and have the funds and the time and the ability to work, and we kind of put those things into action to help Sylvia. So, yeah.
That's great. Yeah. Tom, how about for you?
There's a lot of things I could say here, but one of the things I want to say is when you go inside the prison, these guys can they can see if you're real or you're being fake with them, because they depend on that ability to survive in prison. So it's being real with them. Being upfront, being yourself, don't put on a face, because they will spot it immediately and call you out. But the other thing is blessing. You go into a ministry, your plan is to be a blessing to the person you're serving, but the Lord works. And I've always felt that I've been blessed more from the serving than I ever blessed the person I was serving.
That's a good
Dorcas.
point. Yeah, Tom.
Yeah.
I agree. And I think for me, it is forgiveness. I feel like there are times in my life of serving. I'm not that old to say my whole life, but there are times in my life of serving, I feel like I just want to take a break 1 week. Yeah. Hey, Lord, just give me a break, and I will be back to see you all next week. It comes from a place that I feel like either I'm hurting others or I'm not doing good, I'm too cold, or sometimes I feel being hurt in the process. So I realize that through serving, I see that forgiveness is active and mutual, that people take off the burden on my shoulder and they forgive me, and I have this chance to practice forgiveness on myself, but on others too. That's really beautiful for me.
Yeah. So do you have a story of maybe a time when you stepped out on faith and you've just experienced the joy of serving?
Yeah, sure. So 2 years ago, I was in FGA. I just had an eye surgery. I need to put an eye patch on my left eye. And a couple of students, new students, actually came to me and hugged me without saying anything. And actually, that day I was struggling to come and serve. I think a huge part of it is about my self-pitifulness, that, like, I'm not doing good, like, nobody cares about me. I need to go out and reach out to people to help others. But that day gives me a really good, significant lesson that God delivers this message to me, that he sees me in my particular situation. And sometimes I forget. So I can definitely use the opportunities to serve as a cure for my soul. So
That's good. I appreciate you sharing that. Tom, how about for you? A story that captures the joy of serving.
There are a lot of stories here, because we hear a lot of stories inside, but the one that comes to mind was very recently. It was our last weekend. A little background. The prison ministry, we go in on a Thursday and we're there through Sunday afternoon. And on Sunday afternoon, we have what we call a closing ceremony, where all the guys that have been through the weekend get a chance to speak about what the weekend was for them, what they got from it, how they felt about it. And we had one young man get up and said, "Now I know why I'm in here. I never would have met Christ on the outside."
Wow.
That's why we do it. Another story, real quick one.
Yeah.
We have one of our graduates is now a worship minister at a church in central Indiana.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah, we could praise God for that redeeming story. I love that. And you guys have a great, you talked about feeling that prompt of the Spirit to come alongside and help Sylvia. Share just a little bit more about that.
So I'm going to apologize, but you guys will thank me, because if I don't read off this paper, you'll be here at the end of the week. So, so anyway, just bear with me. There's just so much. So essentially, while John and I were delivering meals and just kind of chit-chatting with one of our clients, and her name is Sylvia, John had mentioned that, I asked if she was staying warm. It was a really, really cold November day in 2021, and she was really embarrassed to tell me that she had no heat and hadn't had in quite a while. And I just didn't really know what to do with that at the time. We delivered her meals. I got back in the car, and I told John, hey, Sylvia doesn't have heat. And I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to take some kind of action. But I'm always dragging John into my projects and everything. So I thought, so I just sat in the car.
I have a feeling there were a lot of elbow nudges happening in the pews when you said that, but anyway, yeah.
So essentially, we didn't get half a block. And John turned to me and he said, "I'm sorry." And he said, "I think Sylvia needs help. And we can help her." And so I was like, thank you, Lord, because she needed someone to be in her corner. So, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So a couple days later, or maybe it was the next day, we went to Sylvia's and we told her we would like to help her. And this is a lady I'd only met on the sidewalk, handing her meals to her. "How are you?" That kind of thing. Anyway, she agreed. She said, I'll let you help me. And I told her it wasn't Meals on Wheels that was helping, it was John and I. It wasn't really a part of the organization, which I'm sure we shouldn't have been doing that. But anyway, one thing led to another, and we discovered, so she's early 70s, living by herself, and her house is literally falling down around her. She had a horrible mouse infestation. I hate mice. And of course, her furnace wasn't working. Her ductwork had all fallen into the foundation or into the crawl space. She had no hot water. She had 2 outlets in her whole house that even worked, and she was using extension cords and had to move them around to be able to turn a lamp on, for instance. It was just a horrible, horrible situation. And so we just kind of started to tackle one problem and then another, and then another. And I made so many phone calls. I have spent hundreds of hours on the phone, essentially advocating for her. She is so grateful, and she's endured all of that through these last almost 2 years now, because of community resources, Sherwood Oaks Church being one of them, and HAND, Housing and Neighborhood Development. They actually came in and rehabbed her home, essentially gutted it and rebuilt it. So she is in a very safe and healthy environment for her. And we have just created an amazing friendship with this lady, something it never would have occurred to us to have had this kind of a friendship with someone. And she loves us, and she tells us that every time, and she considers us family. And to us, that is the best compliment we can get. And we're still in her day-to-day life. I talk to her at least every day, if not more. And she checks on us, just like with Dorcas. I mean, she calls and, hey, I hadn't heard from you, or is everything okay? And so without listening to that little nudge, knowing that really it was the right thing to do, none of this would have happened. And my faith has grown tremendously through it. Again, the blessings that they talked about are coming back to me while you're helping someone else.
Yeah. So real quickly as we wrap up, praise God for that. That is great. What would you share to someone who's kind of on the fence about serving, but I'm also really comfortable in just what I'm doing? What would you share to them?
I know that volunteering and serving and being charitable is not an easy thing to do. As a person wants to be in their familiar place, they want to keep their money, keep their time and their energy for theirself, but I'm one of those people. You need to be open-hearted and share God's blessings with everyone, because serving and volunteering will come back like the butterfly effect. It will have so much impact on you and for the ones you serve. We've seen that, and it continues to today. And I want to thank Sherwood Oaks and the Dollar Club too, especially for their help in the beginning with Sylvia, and they're still helping today. I just want to thank all of you for that.
That's great. That's good. Tom, how about for you?
I think, what better way to live out your faith than to share that faith serving God's people with Him. I'd say step out and do it. Find what you're passionate about. Go to Serve Finder this afternoon and find something that fits your personality and who you are, and just step out and do it.
Great. Dorcas?
So I want to specifically talk to us who are newcomers or who are thinking of relocating in the near future. So probably you're on the fence because you feel like you want to find the perfect timing to be committed and start serving. I want to provide an alternative narrative that this desire you experience now, here, for now, is an initiative to engage in serving in God's kingdom, like for a lifelong growth plan. It must be a good plan for you to experience that desire from God to have something you want to locate. You want to do it now. So take His hand. You'll be surprised, but it must be a wonderful way.
Yeah, that's great. Hey, everybody, thank you so much for sharing with us today and for all the things that you're doing. Wonderful, wonderful. As we wrap up real quickly, I've said it before, but you are never more like Jesus than when you serve. You're never more like Jesus when you serve. Jesus came as a servant. In the night before his crucifixion, Jesus got down on his hands and knees and he washed his disciples' feet. And then he said, go, do what I have done for you and do it for others. And then he goes on later on in the same narrative and he says, a new command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. He says, by your love, everyone will know that you are my disciple. He goes on just a little bit later and he says, the command is this, love each other as I have loved you. And then he closes, this is my command, love each other. And the way that Jesus loved us is by serving us. The way that we can love others is by serving others. And so if you are looking for your place, a way to put your faith into action, to love Christ, man, jump in and find your place to serve. So I'm going to pray us out. And then we will move into our time of response. God, thank you for the call that you have given to us to model Jesus. And there's a world that is watching, wondering, does our faith matter beyond just what we do on Sunday mornings? Are we putting it into action and really making a difference? And Father, I just pray that whether it's in the church or in the community, in our daily walk with you, God, that service and serving you will be a part of what we do to express our love and to help others find and follow you. And so help us to find that place, to find our purpose as we serve you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you so much for watching. You can hear the rest of this message by just clicking here. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to see more videos from Sherwood Oaks. Also, if you have a friend or family member who may find this video useful, please click the share button. Thanks again. Hope you have a great day.